Hello everyone, so today we're going to talk about emotional intelligence. Now, the official definition of emotional intelligence is the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. So, we have to be aware of what we're feeling. We have to try to understand our reactions to things. We have to understand how our reactions are either healthy or unhealthy. So I'll give an example. Let's say somebody is breaking up with you, whether you're male or female or non-binary. Somebody is breaking up with you. They're saying, I don't want to take the relationship any further. A lot of people, if you have become reliant upon that emotional support from that individual, or perhaps you've become, comfortable in your relationship to the extent that it has placed comfort in your life, you're going to, most people are going to have kind of a toxic reaction. Now, a toxic reaction is to respond with anger or jealousy or hatred or something that is the result of the breakup rather than you handling the breakup. So your emotional reaction to many things need not be the ones that you have in the future, because we learn from our emotional experiences. We learn from our breakups. We learn from either not having friends or having a friend and losing a friend, or perhaps we wanted to be near this person for the rest of our lives, but that option is taken out. The option of that person being that comfort, being that love, that closeness, and everything that we valued from, and everything that we took from that relationship just being stripped away. Most people would respond with anger or hatred, or at least frustration. Anger and hatred are usually just some kind of degree of frustration that things are the way that they are, and not so much that is the complete and clear picture of the reality that we're currently assessing. Because if you notice that when you're angry, if you wait a while to respond, whether it be over text message or a call or even in person, if you wait a while, I think there's a Stoic philosopher that said, delay is the best medicine for anger. Because retrospect and hindsight are your allies in circumstances where relationships are ending. They become, delay becomes the greatest tactic that you can use in circumstances where you feel yourself in emotional turmoil. So, emotional intelligence in a relationship, when either you broke up with that person or somebody else is breaking up with you, we're going to use somebody else is breaking up with you. You're outraged. You're feeling like you have been harmed mentally and even psychosomatically, physically. So how do you usually respond when you're angry or frustrated? It's you respond in defense of your emotions. There's a space between feeling something and responding. And that space is often not looked upon. It's not acknowledged because it's so small. But feeling in response, there's actually a pretty big space. Not necessarily for, there's not always a space of like, oh, okay, I can wait to respond to this text message or this call or this voicemail or whatever. But there is this huge space of receiving information, that is extremely, flabbergasting, frustrating, and you responding, that's the space that you either need to lengthen based on your understanding of your own ability to handle the information, or if it's compressed and you have to respond sooner, then that density becomes, the possibility becomes very intense based on the density of time, based on the compression of time. That possibility exists more, and it is very much something that you need to take advantage of, because your life changing, it's especially if you're reliant, not necessarily reliant like physically or financially, but emotionally. If you're reliant on somebody, then, and you feel like, you're in a circumstance where you just respond immediately, there is that time is dense, so the possibilities are also denser. Now, the density of possibility being increased means that there are a whole lot of things that can happen. Because if the density of if the time density is extended and you have a lot of time to respond, then the density of possibility becomes wider, and we think there's more possibility there for what could happen. But really, the tendrils are just taunter. They're more taunt as these moments between information receival and reaction are expanded. So let's go back to the, somebody is breaking up with you. You've relied on this person for emotional comfort, maybe for physical comfort. Maybe they have played a role in your life that you haven't had for a while, or that even you didn't have as a kid. Perhaps this person is like a older brother or sister, or a mother or father in a way in this relationship, whether it be friendship, romantic relationship, what have you, doesn't matter. You have to make use of the time that you have. And if the possibilities in your response are very dense, the time being dense and making these possibilities more nebulous as so, then your emotional intelligence becomes your most immediate faculty. Because a lot of us want to respond with anger. Like, how could you do this to me? Was I nothing to you? My whole life has changed now. I relied upon you. I became one with you, and you're exiting from the oneness that we've created. As soon as something like that happens, you need to begin the process. As soon as that happens, you need to begin the process of imagining your life beyond that person being in your life. And, you should always kind of do this. But most people, when that happens, you haven't done that before. And you're kind of in a place where it's like, oh, I never imagined my life without this person. Or I never, thought that far ahead, even. But emotional intelligence is being able to understand your reactions and change them. To understand why you're feeling something and change that. To see yourself as you are, rather than being a completely reactionary being. Empathy. You need to have empathy for yourself, and reaction based on aggravated emotion is not empathy for yourself. It is a way to get back at somebody, because we want to get back at somebody when we feel they are tearing something away from us. Empathy needs to be present there so that you have empathy for yourself, being like, okay, this is the reality, and there's not really a way I can change that. If the situation in person is definite about ending things, no matter what kind of relationship it is, romantic or friendship or what have you. You need to make the process easier for yourself by either giving yourself time to process, but if you don't have that time, you simply have to accept the way things are as they are. That is empathy towards yourself. Now, empathy towards the other person, if they have been such a big part of your life, provided you so much comfort, then give them the respect, at least their past self that has given you all this, the respect and love to just accept their decision, accept their breaking away. Acceptance towards the other person's desire or action of breaking away is empathy towards their past self. And it makes the process for yourself currently easier. It's also empathy towards their future self, but you're not going to be able to see it a lot of the time when this happens as this situation occurs. So judiciously, I have a problem with that word, it's hard saying. It means that you're able to comprise and order your thoughts in a way that allows your life to continue without their influence, either positive or negative. Let's say that you're breaking away from somebody. Everything is the exact same truth. So, you still need to have empathy for what that person provided with you in y'all's relationship. And as respect to that past person, even if you feel like that this person right now that you're dealing with is somebody else, it's like, oh, this was a strange occurrence. It just came out of nowhere. That's fine. But for the respect of the experiences that person gave you, you should order and compose your words in a way, and eventually your emotions, if not immediately your emotions, in a way that respects the memories that y'all had. Emotional intelligence is a strange kind of intelligence because it's based on experience, but it's not completely based on experience. It's based on intuition, but it's not completely based on intuition. It's based on emotion, but not immediate emotion. And it's based on truth, but not absolute truth. You have to figure out the truth of y'all's relationship, whatever it was, and how far back you pull yourself, however macro it gets. You need to see that there was a line of truth somewhere in there that you need to follow to improve for the future and correctly perceive the past. Emotional intelligence is something that you don't really experience or completely understand until you encounter a situation where a relationship is either being created or in doubt or changing, shifting. This shifting and changing needs to become a period of contemplation and perhaps solitude for you, even if you're not physically isolated. It needs to become a place within yourself where you start thinking immediately and start thinking sometimes very quickly. Most of the time, there's way more time to think. You need to tear down the walls of I'm this person and that person is that person, and think of if both of you were one, in agreement of either breaking away or in agreement of being together, or understanding them or understanding yourself, the oars need to come down and the lines outside of our person need to come down so that we can view that other person as just as valuable as ourselves and just as much of a person as ourselves, but with a different delineation of purpose and even fate. Fate can also be a thing. Destiny. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. If you feel like it really was meant to be, you might need to think on it based on the circumstances. If you decide that it was meant to be, then you approach the person. But never act out of anger. Never act immediately after pain. Never directly after a break wrap the wound before you set the bones so that they can heal. If you don't set the bones of the relationship, then even if you wrap the wound where the skin broke, in your shin, for instance, then it won't heal. You have to be extremely intelligent in understanding yourself, your most common reactions, your least common reactions, how you view yourself, how they view themselves, and have an empathy, not just for yourself, but both of you. If you can do that, your relationships will be far more healthy. And there's a period after this whole circumstance, after a breaking of relationships, where you're going to feel very down and out. You're going to feel a lot of pain. What you need to do is not wallow in that pain, not keep on falling back into that pain per se, but analyze all the data. You need to have different hats. You have an intellect hat, you have an emotion hat, an intellect hat. You might have various hats for what you need to be in that instance and what you need to be when thinking about this. But the intellect hat, the brain hat, you can call it, is analyzing the situation, what you feel like they did wrong and what you feel like you did wrong, and what the relationship was to you and to them. But just analyze it without emotions. Cut off your emotions and just analyze it. Just analyze all the data and information. On the emotional side, what was the significance of all your interactions? Who were you to each other? What does that feel like inside of yourself? What does that feel like in your heart? Add these two together, as well as perhaps creativity of future either relationships or making new life for yourself. That's a whole nother hat that you can put on. You can isolate different sections of yourself so that you can analyze the situation in full. And then you'll have a way bigger advantage in the future, either with that person or with someone else, whether it be a friendship or relationship. But there's one thing that you must never do. Never give up just because it's hard. Because something is hard, because it is difficult, that means it is worthwhile pursuing. I don't care how long you have to try to do something until you get it. Figure out what you want to get. Figure out who you are, and if you want to figure out the true nature of yourself and the people that you've known, keep on working at it. It's like if you want a job, and I'm looking for a job to get at my current job. If you really want a job, you want to get that job, and they ask for multiple interviews, keep on going to those interviews. If you have to wait on hold on the phone in order to get somebody to talk to that's a person, which seems to be a common thing for human beings now, if you have to wait on hold on the whatever company you're calling, you have to wait on hold, be willing to wait on hold for 3 hours if you need to. If this is your next step, if you decided on a step, wait on hold for 3 hours if you have to. 4 or 5, sure. Put on speakerphone, hook up to a charger, and go about your business, as long as you're near the phone. Keep on giving your effort. Never give up. Because if you give up on what you're trying to do, then you're giving up on yourself. And your soul deserves far more than that. At any rate, thank you very much for watching. This has been a video on emotional intelligence. I hope this was interesting, informative. Shoot down any comments, questions, concerns in the comment section below, and I'll see all of you on the channel in the future.